Here we are outside Forge Island in Rotherham, £48 million project done by Rotherham Council rather than the private developers. Complete waste of money for us, especially in the rural areas of Rotherham Borough. We're on a fantastic bridge walking into Rotherham Town Centre. I've redubbed it because I'd over amplified on my camera on the day, but you'll get the same effect. Lovely chapel on the bridge. I've done videos on that. But back in 1979 through to 1984, I was in the Rotherham steel industry before I moved to Midland Bank in Sheffield. So on a Tuesday I used to come to college. You can just see the Scala there. So every Tuesday I came to college. I often got the bus through Rotherham when I was working at Allwork. So I know what Rotherham was like in the 1980s, and now it's like a ghost town. So we lost a lot of jobs in South Yorkshire, both in the collieries and down to the steelworks in the 80s, and it was nothing like this when the record Ghost Town by the Specials came out. Hardly a decent shop left in Rotherham. I think Dinnington, where I live, has got a better quality shops than Rotherham. Now, whenever I come to Rotherham, it seems to be deserted. Probably I come at the wrong times. Now, this is just before 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, but you'd still expect shops to be busy. Now, I'm surprised the new cinema wasn't built by a private developer at Parkgate, because I think that's probably Rotherham's biggest issue. If you shut down, that's the bus station, if you shut down Parkgate, I think it'd revive Rotherham Town Centre tomorrow, to tell you the truth. Now, it was done with some sort of agency so they could bypass local planning rules to open Parkgate in the first place, and then once Parkgate was open, Meadowhall came along next. Beautiful old market area in Rotherham, and that's like a bit of an indoor market. I always like these places. I push them when I've gone to Leeds and Bradford and places like that, and Barnsley. I recently did one down at Derby. I love the arcades. I think we should have more of them. Far nicer than the shopping centres. So we're looking across where the old CNA was, where you can see Halifax now. But even, I mean, compared with the 1980s, the 1980s was buzzing in Rotherham. But even back then, it was nothing on the level of Worksop. I mean, Worksop's my next town, and Worksop was a better town centre than Rotherham back then. But I have seen pictures of Rotherham from the 1950s and 60s, and it was a far better town than it ever was in the 1980s. I think they shrunk it. I think they did stupid pedestrianised schemes in Rotherham before it started elsewhere, and ruined the town centre a long time ago. But like I said, it was buzzing when I came to college compared with this, I can tell you. But they must have a Saturday market as well. But you still expect quite a few people around, but you can just see the calibre of shops. There's just nothing to drive people into Rotherham. Oh, another vape shop. There was the old Woolworths where B&M is. Plenty of litter on floor though, isn't there? How do people do it? I just don't get throwing litter on floor, even if there's no bins. You take it home. Beautiful Minster there. One thing I give Rotherham over everywhere else, it's got a better Minster, or Cathedral, whatever you want to call it. I think it's the best one in South Yorkshire, Rotherham Minster. You can't believe it, can you? 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. So this area, I can't work it out. They've suddenly allowed vehicles on here after all these years. Not really sure of the point of this. Because it doesn't really make a lot of difference with the number of car parking spaces. I'd rather a fully automated town centre, but if you're going to do it in a half measure like this, I won't bother. So they're doing some work on HSBC. Again, I did a video of it looking really nice. So we're on College Street at the moment. And now they've got scaffolding back up. Now I think I've got a bank account with College Street in Rotherham, but I've never been in it. So the building just coming up on there right in front of us is where Mary Queen of Scots was supposed to be held, and I've got a longer video on that. Just here where you can see the Art Foundation was W.H. Smith, and sandwiched between that and B&M was Marks and Spencer's, I think. But we're now on Wellgate, and they spent a lot of money on cycle lanes from Magna along Westgate and also Wellgate, and they've ruined both Westgate and Wellgate, killed the businesses off. I spoke to a very distraught guy on Wellgate with an American barber, and he said that basically since the cycle lanes, which are right outside the business, his business has died off. You walk out of the business, and if you're not careful, you walk straight into a cycle lane. So they killed that street off, well, both Wellgate and Westgate, with nonsense £15 million cycle lanes that nobody uses. If you see a cyclist, they're usually cycling on the road anyway. But this is High Street. Now, this was the first part of the nonsense in the 1980s with the one-way system. It was absolutely crackers. I first started driving in 1983, so I was driving to college by the time I finished in 1984. Wasn't great parking in the middle of Rotherham, even back then. But there was a good bus service. We had the 19 into the Rotherham, which we still have. I think we're on Ship Hill there. But Rotherham has got some beautiful old buildings. So you can see another view of the Minster there. I can't show it enough. So there we've got one of the old cinemas. Now, rather than invest in the Scala, which I've already shown you, and that cinema, and get them back open again, the council's wasted £48 million on Forge Island. The Scala's absolutely beautiful inside. It looks a bit plain from the outside, but it's fantastic in. So we're looking down Corporation Street. But it really gives you an idea. This is a Saturday. It doesn't really matter. That's a cinema. I think it's a nightclub. I think it's been done up at the moment, but to me, it'd be a fantastic cinema along with the Scala. The Scala could have been more a place for like a playhouse sort of thing, and that could have been a pictures. But Rotherham Council don't half know how to waste money, another £35 million on the market, which probably only needed £5 million.